Welcome to That Sounds Terrific in the 585. Join hosts Nick Koziel and Christine Green as they spotlight the incredible leaders, visionaries, and innovators shaping Rochester and the 585 community. From transformative stories to big ideas, we celebrate the people making our community a better place to live, work, and thrive. So sit back, relax, and listen to what makes the 585 sound terrific.
Welcome to That Sounds Terrific in the 585 with Nick Koziel and Christine Green. Today we have Susan Kavanagh with us. Welcome, Susan. Thank you so much. And let's jump right in. Why don't you tell us the few-minute elevator pitch of who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Nick, both of you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. My name is Susan Kavanagh, and I am the president of Tech Rochester. Tech Rochester is a not-for-profit 100% volunteer association in Rochester. When we bridge together tech professionals and tech companies under one ecosystem to help with economic sustainability and technology advancements in the Rochester region. So we really look forward to be able to bring together professionals and bring together companies and help them connect and collaborate and network and really do big things to help sustain economic sustainability in the Rochester region.
Wow.
Yeah, and we see that it's the 25th anniversary.
It is, as you can
That's
see.
awesome.
Yes, this is our 25th year, which I think if you look at volunteer organizations and not-for-profits in general, that's unheard of in a lot of respects. You know, we've been around for a long time, and we started out in the very, very early days in the early 2000, actually in 2000, as strictly a networking organization. It was a way for what was then sort of known as IT professionals, right? The IT kind of help desk folks or the background folks to come out into the public and to network and have connections. I mean, a lot of the IT folks when starting out were just sort of behind the scenes, right? They didn't have a lot of front-facing, client-facing roles and responsibilities. So it was really a way for them to get out and talk to the public and talk to other humans. But over time, grew and developed into not necessarily an educational organization, but a professional development organization. So different types of events centered around technology growth and rising star companies in our region, right? And now we've just evolved into something that I think is so big and so well received in our community because we have found a way to truly collaborate with partners in this community to give them what they really want. What are the things that they're looking for right now as organizations? A lot of them are looking for workforce development opportunities, right? How do we serve the underserved communities? A lot of them are looking for opportunities to learn more about AI and whatever we can offer as an organization to help those companies get what they need. That's what we try to do.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
awesome. It's awesome. And I love the recognition stuff too. I think that's kind of
Yeah.
how we connected initially.
Yep.
One of our students at the U of R was nominated, recognized as a nominee at one of your programs. So I think that that's also important is highlighting the local figures, which is what this show is really about, is highlighting people that are making, good impacts in the community. So
I'm glad you raised that because celebrate is one of our biggest pillars, right? And so that is, like you said, a highlighting and a recognition of innovators and developers and pioneers that really kind of pave the way and do really big, great things in this community. And right now, we are also approaching our 25th anniversary of the Technology Woman of the Year Awards, which are going to be held on April 24th. And so, same thing. This is an award specifically tailored towards women in technology. And this is a time-honored tradition that we hope to continue on for many more years to come, even beyond my leadership with Tech Rochester, because it's really important to highlight women in technology. You know, we're kind of the unsung heroes, so to speak, and
Sure.
times women are not really recognized for the things that they contribute and the things that they do to help advancements in technology. So to be able to present this award year over year and get an influx of nominations of really deserving women that I didn't even know were out there until I see the nominations come through and see what they're capable of and what they're doing. It's really a privilege to be able to put that out there in the community and recognize these folks.
yeah, I think I don't know, I don't want to speak completely for Christine, but I know Christine and I have had conversations about not wanting to be on the judges for things
Yeah.
like that, like about reading book, like who gets to publish a book. We're like everybody gets to publish a book. We're just like
Yeah.
too nice in that way. So I don't envy the people that are on the panel. I'm not sure if you're part of that panel.
So as an officer of the organization, I am not on the panel because I feel like it just creates a sense of impropriety that I don't
Sure.
want to have exist. However, I will say that in past years prior to my leadership, I was a judge. I actually am a two-time nominee myself. I didn't
Awesome.
win, but that's okay. It's okay. It's really about the journey and the process and getting and going through that and meeting these remarkable women in your class of Tech Women of the Year nominees. But being a judge, I will say, in my experience that I have done, is a very big challenge. You look at these nominations and you look at the qualifications and you look at all of these things that people have done. And sometimes you just sit there and go, I don't know how to do this, right? There's too many wonderful women to try and put above somebody else. It's very difficult to do. So I also don't envy that process either. It is a very difficult one, yes.
About how many, for this award in particular, about how many nominees are
Yeah.
come in?
So we have two awards in this particular event, which is Technology Woman of the Year and Emerging Technology Woman of the Year. So Technology Woman of the Year is that category of anybody who has been in technology related fields for 5+ years. And Emerging Tech is within a 5-year window. So typically for Tech Woman of the Year, we have around 12 nominees. And Emerging Tech usually tops off around 7 nominees. And it fluctuates year over year, but we usually land somewhere around 12.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how you in particular got involved with this organization.
So, yeah. I started very, very early on. I have an interesting sort of journey with Tech Rochester, if you'll let me indulge you for a moment. So Tech Rochester started as Digital Rochester, and this was back in 2000 when the organization began. And I was involved just as a attendee to events, networking events, some of the professional development events, and slowly over time started volunteering. I actually, a little anecdote for you. I actually met my husband
Oh,
in
wow.
then Digital Rochester at a networking event.
Awesome.
And he ended up proposing to me also at a Digital Rochester networking event.
Oh my
So
gosh.
we have since been together for 16 years. In any event, I took some time. So he and I ended up being on the board together. We were married, and then we were having a baby, so I decided that it was time for me to just sort of step away from my volunteerism and really put some time and energy into my family. And so I took some time off, and then I came back, first of all as a Tech Woman of the Year two-time nominee in 2016, 2017, and then I came back to the board in 2018. So, and I've been there ever since. So I've really kind of been through it. With Tech Rochester as well, we went from being a live organization, a live event organization, to really having to pivot and make a change during the pandemic.
Mm.
Right on the heels of, having our Technology Woman of the Year awards in April, which were all planned and ready to go. And then boom, we had to make a shift. And we did it. We did it almost overnight. We found a way to keep our community connected and engaged in a virtual way. We did shift to a complete virtual organization. And then slowly, as people were starting to get comfortable with going back out into the public again, we started to make sort of a hybrid of virtual events and in-person events. And now we're pretty much almost 90% back to in-person. We still do some virtual events depending on the content and the audience and the things that we really want to focus on and what's going to drive more attendance, right? Is a live event going to drive more attendance, or is a virtual event going to drive more attendance? So we still have that flexibility, but really have seen this organization through a lot of changes over the years, since the early days of 2000, when technology wasn't what technology is today, right? I think we probably had AOL and a flip phone. And now look at where we are. We have data universes that are just beyond our control and our elements. And so we've come a long way, and we will continue to come a long way. And as long as Tech Rochester can continue to stay relevant as technology changes, I think we're going to be around for the long haul.
Awesome. You
Oh,
just made me nostalgia. You've got mail.
Yeah, right.
do you mind if I jump in with a question here? The look on your face,
I'm
Nick.
just waiting for the question. You're a
Hilarious.
co-host. You're fully
Yeah, I'm
able to
supposed to
ask
jump in with questions.
questions.
So, Susan, we've talked about Tech Rochester and your involvement, and I want to talk more about that. But let's hone it in even more. You're a woman in tech.
Mhm.
What drew you to the tech field, and what do you do in the tech field? What is your job, your devotion in the tech universe?
So thank you for that question. I started my career in absolutely nothing to do with technology. I began as a legal assistant in a law firm. And then over time, working in litigation. So in litigation, you have what's called the discovery process, and that is the exchange of information between the parties to help with building your case and building your defensive model, right? And so because information went from the paper format to data universes and technological format, the legal profession really had to make a shift on how we as a legal team would manage disclosure of information and review of information that would be relevant for disclosure. And so that was when the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, right around 2006, changed to cover how attorneys need to handle electronic data in litigation. And no one, especially in this community, knew what to do or how to handle this. And so I had taken it upon myself to learn, self-taught, about what that meant for us as a law firm. And so I started putting together training sessions. I worked with the federal court system to come in and train our teams and really help educate the internal law firm, attorneys and paralegals alike, on what does this all mean for us, and how do we evolve, and how do we manage electronic data going forward, and what are we going to have to do based on what these requirements mean. And historically, and I don't want to offend any lawyers here that are going to be listening in, but historically, the legal profession has always been the last one to get on board, right? And I think anybody will tell you that. I think any lawyer that will tell you that it's just true. And same with the medical profession. I think the medical profession has taken a long time to kind of get on board, right? But these advancements are forcing those issues, and had forced these issues as well. And so, having been sort of self-taught, I thought there's got to be more to this than meets the eye. And so I sort of, at a certain point in time, decided that I might be more valuable in a service provider field. And so talking around with some of the local service providers that assist law firms and corporate legal departments on electronic management of information, I said, "Hey, is there a job for me?" And what they loved about that was that I come from the client side, right? I come from the experiential side. I come from the side that hires these companies to come in and help them manage this work. And so I provided a completely different perspective than a lot of the folks that were working within these organizations. And so I evolved my career over time. And I now work for a company called KLDiscovery. They are based out of Eden Prairie, Minnesota, but they are a global operation, and they now do not just e-discovery, but cybersecurity, information governance, and a whole host of other technology-related services that really center around the legal industry. And that is the evolution of a lot of these service providers, because that is the force that they have had to evolve with, because things change over time. Data, while it gets bigger, gets much more manageable. And so how does a service provider find new ways to stay ahead of the curve? And you do that by providing other services in addition to e-discovery. Now, I will say that e-discovery is a multi-billion-dollar operation across the globe. It's a very lucrative business, and it will never, ever go away as long as information remains stored in electronic format. My particular job with this company is the Senior Director of Client Experience. So it's my job to make sure that our clients are happy with our service model, our technology stack, and any other types of services that we offer. So I sit and I have meetings with clients, and I gather feedback about, what are things that we're doing really, really well? What are things that we're not doing really well? if a service provider could do X, what is that X factor that would force you to never choose anybody else again but us, right? Those are the big questions that I like to ask our clients. And that's how I help our company deliver the best services they possibly can. And it's helping clients make the most out of their relationship with us.
Wow.
I know it's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It
It's
is.
A lot of stuff.
absolutely, it's so impressive. And I'm always impressed, I think, because in some ways it mirrors in some ways mirrors my own journey, but I love to see this idea that you can go from one career path and then take a turn and be somewhere else. And it's not because anything's wrong. It's because you simply changed and developed and educated yourself in a way that has led your path down a different route. And I think that's great. I think people who do really well in the careers that they have, and not even just careers, in the lives that they have, are multi-dimensional, multifaceted people who have, it gives you a new perspective. It gives you a different perspective, right? Coming from the client, seeing, knowing what clients want,
Yeah.
and also just, coming from a whole different background gives you a different set of eyes when you're doing this stuff. So anyway, that's what I have to say. So that's really
No,
cool.
I think that's true. And I think it's, the lesson here is finding those opportunities that are gonna make you happy. This is a role with KLDiscovery that I created myself. It wasn't an existing role. I had my senior manager come to me and say, what is it that you really want to do here? I was doing a different role before this. I was working actually in the procurement area and we're responding to requests for proposals. And while that is it's a very busy job, it got to a point where I think, there's something more that I could offer. And so when my boss came to me and said, what do you want to do? I felt like that was my opportunity. And I just sort of said, this is what I think this company needs to focus on. And we're not doing that. And if you look at the big five or you look at the big three, they're all doing it. So let's get on board and let's do this. And let's keep up with all of them and make sure that our clients feel like they're being heard. Because our clients, in this industry, it's constantly moving. It's always moving, right? There's no time to just take a pause and say, wow, that project went really, really bad, or that project went really, really well. And then digging in deep to find out what those reasons are. And so that's where I come in. And I force everybody to take that pause, both internally and externally. Our internal teams are just as important as our external teams. Where were the kinks in the wheel? Where were the areas that, what bottlenecked you? Where were the big brick walls that you ran into? And how do we take those obstacles out of your way? How do we take those barriers out of your way next time so we don't run into these issues over and over and over again? So it's an internal position and it's an external position because it really forces me to interact and collaborate with all of the internal teams to make sure that our service model is up to par.
Well, first of all, there's a bunch of things here, but kudos to you for having the wherewithal to actually approach and do that, because that's half the battle. Kudos to your boss and to the company to have a mechanism in place to allow for that to happen, because there's too many opportunities are squashed right there. Go to your boss and you say, I have something that's going to help the company. And then the company is either too big or it's just too narrow focused to say, there's no possibility for you to change your position in any way, shape, or form. You are blank, and that's what you're going to do. And then they lose you to competitors, right?
Exactly.
So, what I also love about what you're talking about is kind of from what I understand from what your company is, uh, it's data centric. So you're collecting data and you're using it to improve what you do, which is working with data.
Yep.
So it's great.
Yep.
I just think more companies have to be open-minded, especially as we move forward into this purely, uh, digital AI, data sciencey world that we're going into.
Yeah.
Being open to the human factor.
Yeah, I think that companies need to get creative because, as you said, this AI world that we're heading into, people are fearful that their jobs are going to become obsolete. And I don't think that's going to be the case because there's always going to have to be somebody that's got to power that, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that there is this fear centered around AI, but At the same time, companies do need to get creative about how they're going to keep their people
Yeah.
because people are going to get bored.
Yep.
And people are going to want to do bigger and better things. And if companies don't evolve, they're going to lose the good people, like you said, Nick, to the competitors that are doing these things.
And I kind of go like here, I'm gonna get on my pedestal, but I kind of go two different ways with AI, right? There's the Trekkie in me, the Star Trek nerd that wants the world to develop into like this beautiful place where, money is not a thing and all this other stuff, and you're all taking care of each other, and the strife is sort of outside of the US and the world and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And then there's the other side of me that's looking at AI for what it is. And I often kind of joke around and I say those businesses with lots of transactions like banks and stuff like that are probably the most primed for overhaul, where the emotion of decisions has been taken out of it. Like used to
Mhm.
be years and years ago when you went to get a bank loan and you came in with like a sob story, that might actually get you the loan. Now
Yeah.
it's all based on numbers and risk, right?
All transactional now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess
That's kind of
one of the things,
heartbreaking though, in a way, right?
It is.
yeah, but that human factor still has to be there. But like I kind of I joke around with my banking friends and I say, we better be careful because you guys are the most primed to kind of just have like four vice presidents and a president that are just checking in every now and then on the algorithm, right?
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
aside from the actual tech people that are running all that stuff and writing it,
Yeah.
but I guess the I would love to know, speaking of the future, right? And where do you see, yourself and Tech Rochester kind of going,
Let me shake my magic 8 ball over here for a second
right?
and get back
Or
to you on that.
right? Let's
So
ask AI. Let me go and chat
yeah, right.
GPT
Oh,
Let's
right
let's
now.
chat GPT if we can. The future for me, so my term with Tech Rochester as its president ends in September. And I will be taking on the board advisor position. So that is the past president role,
Right.
to stay on for 2 more years to just provide some longevity and some guidance and for the incoming president. Who that will be right now is undetermined at the moment.
Oh,
Um, for the future of Tech Rochester, I think what Tech Rochester has always been really good at is listening to the community and working to give the community what it is that they want. And so as long as that trend continues, I think Tech Rochester is going to be around for another 25 years, maybe 75 years. It's really going to depend on the community involvement and the folks that want to continue to partake and collaborate and do things with us to make for bigger and better events. And we're very lucky and grateful that we have a lot of organizations that do like to partner with us to provide bigger and better events because there are strength in numbers, right? And your audience and my audience may not be the same people, but if we have shared content, we can bring those two together and we can have a giant event, and a really good event. And so that collaboration, that fostering a relationship, what I think is going to be increasingly important to the growth of Tech Rochester in particular is the tech hub status that we received last year. And, with the I-Corridor, with Micron technologies coming in, I think that is going to help pave the way to allow Tech Rochester to become much more involved in those discussions, in the I-Corridor discussions. It's a it's a door we've been trying to knock on for a little while, but I think we're getting closer and closer to that opportunity. And so if we can stay in those conversations and have a seat at the table, and help the community grow, and embrace the tech hub status, and get companies to come here and establish their foothold here and establish business here, Rochester is going to continue to grow. And therefore technology will grow, and therefore Tech Rochester will always have a place in this community.
that's amazing. And so tell me, that kind of leads me to a question about how do so I'm a perfect example, right? I'm not in the tech industry. I will never be in the tech, like I'm just not, I'm in the arts, right? I'm in the arts and I'm in publishing and in that. Uh, How does someone like me, who is not in tech and not part of this group, how do you see your group interacting with the non-techies out there? Like what is that? how important are those relationships, and how do those relationships um, affect those part of your establishment?
So that's a great question. And I think the answer to that is there is tech in everything.
Yeah.
Tech is in every aspect of what we do every single day. And so it's not just about, focusing on my job is not a tech related job. Do you own a cell phone? Do you have an iPhone? Do you have a computer? Are there challenges that you face when you're trying to put together a proposal that you would like more, an education on how to manage PowerPoint? I mean, it's so big. It comes down to the basic skills. But I think that there is room for everyone in this organization, regardless of what your profession is. We have a lot of people that come to our events that are not necessarily in tech, but have an interest in learning more, right? AI is a prime example of that. We have a lot of people that don't work in tech, but that all they hear is the buzzword of AI, and they have really no clue what that means. So they find out about an event that we're doing around AI, and they come because they want to learn more. They want to know more. And so those are ways that the non-techies can get involved in our organization. And I hope that they will. I hope that they will see that there is an opportunity here for everyone, that we are not mutually exclusive to the tech community, that we are open and diverse in the folks that attend, and what their backgrounds are and what their professions are. It really is not just for tech professionals, but it's a way for you to get to know the tech businesses that are in this area. One other thing too that we are focusing in on this year, and this is all due in large part to a grant that Tech Rochester received, which I'm very proud to talk about here, is a grant from Springboard in the amount of $24,000 that is going to help us advance the entrepreneurial community. So we are building a network of entrepreneurs and established businesses, right? So that they can get together and have a think tank, so to speak, about a business idea, sales pitches, but just really an opportunity to talk with and have a mentor-mentee relationship with established business owners to say, hey, can you help me figure out why this is not getting traction? Or I have this really great sales pitch that I have to deliver. Would you be willing to listen to it and give me pointers and tips? And really kind of a Shark Tank for entrepreneurs, right? Without the investment piece associated with it, but just giving people that extra opportunity that they haven't necessarily had in the past. What I think people don't know a lot about tech in Rochester is that we are made up of small to mid-sized businesses. It's not a lot of large companies, right? Gone are the days of Kodak and Xerox and the manufacturing companies that were very, very large. The gold mine here are these smaller companies that are tech companies that are just trying to grow and establish. And so we have to really harness those folks and embrace those folks. And I really hope that there is a place here in this organization for everyone, whether you are in tech or not, or you just want to learn more.
That's
Yay,
awesome.
I love it.
I mean, you're speaking my language, Susan, because I am not a techie, but I am bridging that gap, right?
Yeah.
Between the tech, the data science, the people. It's about finding the data, right? And I would argue every one of it, like you, Christine, are collecting data right now, not even just by recording
Yeah.
this, like, and they're trying to find ways to measure that data in the science and the medical side of things to like kind of really literally get into your brain and read kind of like what you're thinking, how you're thinking, all those things are data points. Pictures are data point. It's just like, it's amazing the position that I'm in right now and why I connected with Susan. I never would have gone to, a Tech Rochester event if it
Yeah.
weren't for my job.
And I'm glad you
But
did.
I am glad that I did, and I'm glad that I asked you to be on the show because I think that's a very important point. If you get nothing out of this episode at all, other than you need to go to one of these Tech Rochester events, that's the message here. Go and check it out and be a part of it because it'll open your world.
Mhm.
And just like Susan went and found herself another job on the other side, going from client to actual provider, that can happen for others.
Yeah.
Especially when you think about how many companies need, client examples that they can work with and people that know the other business ins and outs in order to be able to, sell or do their products.
Yeah.
So, I do have a question. I know I keep staying on the soapbox. I don't normally do this, but I'm just so excited. But so then, so we've talked a little bit about, what Tech Rochester does, where you're kind of heading, where you've been. How Can you explain like as a first time attendee or someone getting involved, like what's the experience like and like what can others do for your organization?
Yeah, I think, when somebody walks into a Tech Rochester event for the first time, it may be a little overwhelming, because you sort of look around, you're like, I don't know what to do or who to talk to, but everybody is really friendly and everybody really loves to meet new people. That's why they come, right? People come to our events really for the networking. Networking is always a big component of every event that we do. So it doesn't matter the format, it doesn't matter the type of event, there's always going to be a networking component. And so coming to an event and being an active participant and getting to know the community, just walking up to people, introducing yourself, and people love to talk about themselves, right? So, who are you and what do you do is a fair question, and everybody will be, I think, more than generous with information and open up. And so, even if you have never come to an event and you don't know where to begin, just come. If there's something that's of interest, just come, and say hi to me. I'm always there. 99.999% of the time I'm there. So come say hi to me first and I will make introductions for you. But certainly, we welcome everyone. And so I encourage everybody to get actively involved and join our events. We have a great new series coming up as well that we're starting in March called Made in Rock. And
Awesome.
this is going to be, they're going to be morning events and they're going to be held over at NextCore, which is where we're headquartered. It's high atop the Sibley building, the old Sibley building, as I like to call it. Is that a NextCore pen?
Yeah.
I
My
love it.
next core pen.
I love it. So
I've been
for those here that don't know what NextCore is the Tech Hub incubator in Rochester, formerly known as High Tech Rochester. It's run by Jim Sinnell, and he's got a great team over there. And it is a wonderful space that we are so privileged to be a part of because we are right in the core of the entrepreneurial community. And
This
it's just
episode brought to you by NextCore.
that's
Yes,
right.
NextCore,
If
right in
only.
the heart of Rochester. Sorry.
Right?
It's really
Uh,
not, but it could be.
It could be. It could be Jim's and
Yeah,
all.
Jim.
In any event, it's a great space. We love being there. And so the Made in Rock series is going to be held, at NextCore in the morning, 7:30 to 9 a.m. So come and have some coffee with us. And really those events are designed for the community to get to know business leaders that grew from this to this. And our first person is going to be Annette Warren from iSecure. She's the president of iSecure. She's going to be our first speaker in March. The date is totally escaping me now. I think it's March 21st, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but it's really going to be a fun series that we're going to be putting together this year, and it's really going to highlight business growth. So if nothing else, you will gain knowledge and experience from business leaders about how they started and what their failures were and what their successes were and how they got to where they are today. So again, something for everyone. Even though it's a tech business, it's about establishing a business and growing a business from one person to 50 people or 100 people.
Mhm.
So those are just, in every event that we do, there's a message for everyone. And it may not necessarily be around tech. It may just be you'll walk away with something that will impact you, that will resonate with you, and that you'll carry forward with you as you socialize into the community.
Yeah. What a perfect place next core. I mean, like if you're looking to start a business, if you're
Yeah.
looking to be part of a startup, if you're, looking for services from like the tech side, it's a perfect place to go and network and, meet people that are like-minded and have great, inspiring energy around ideas. So
And it's
it's
a
great.
great space. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
let's be honest, it's a great space, right?
Yeah.
It's beautifully redone. It's just a really nice place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So, any other questions, Christine?
I can't think of any right now. It's really overwhelming. It's really interesting. It's a part, I'm going to be honest, it's a part of uh the 585 Rochester scene that I am not a part of and don't know much about. I don't I and so this is fascinating. It's exciting to learn all about this, and I hope that our listeners will, go to a meeting, at least do a little bit of research and try and understand tech in their lives and in the 585 and what that means and how that can benefit their life, even if they're not in a techie position themselves. A quick question I did want to ask is how do you guys, or do you as a group, work with or seek to work with the arts community in Rochester? Because our community, the Rochester arts community is like, we have stuff, I think people don't realize how nationally, internationally known and appreciated, everything from writers and books to the MAG to the Eastman Museum into these beautiful everything from Beyond the Glass to Flower City Arts. What is the connection? Are you guys making those connections together?
So we haven't yet, and I love the idea of this because I do think there's a lot of cool opportunities here, and I think it's just an exploration that we just need to sit down and talk about. But I can see a lot of the wheels in my head are turning, and they're kind of going everywhere, and they're spinning out a little bit right now. But I feel like there's great opportunity for us to sit down and talk about how do we bridge that gap. If nothing else, location is everything, and I think locations drive a lot of attendance. And so if there's a cool space, we used to have a lot of events at Artisan Works, and for no other reason than it was just it's a really nifty space and people love going there. And so networking events there, people get to walk around, look at the art and enjoy the pieces that are there and just walk away with a sense of inspiration and just, a good feeling about where they were. So I love the idea of having those conversations and figuring out how those two areas can work together. And I am sure that there is opportunity there for us.
Yeah, I mean, and being in the position that I am in and the kind of innovation that I see from day to day, like there's so many different directions you can go. So you're absolutely correct, Susan, because like even just the idea of, VR, like and augmented VR and like all those different things like where you can bring the museum experience, the art experience to every corner of the world, to people like in Tibet that are never going to be able to get to Rochester, New York to experience some of the art. And so there's a lot of different cool things that technology can do to enhance nonprofit missions as well. There's a woman out of our IT that worked with a nonprofit kind of highlighting different stories about children and trying to get their messaging out there when children, obviously you can't share, certain aspects of those things. It has to do with like abuse and things like that. So like sharing those kinds of stories are very hard to do, but you also want to get fundraising, and that's all like tech, and so it's amazing. I'm so glad you asked that, Christine, because I think that there are so many like roads and ways that we can connect those things. And Susan, you're in like this really great space where you can kind of spearhead and lead that kind of challenge too. And it sounds like you're super into that idea as well.
I'm super open to it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, do you have anything else that you want to share before we kind of wrap up? I want to make sure you got everything out that you wanted to get out.
Yeah, I encourage everybody here to subscribe to the Tech Rochester newsletter. If you go to our Tech Rochester website, techrochester.org, you'll get a little annoying pop-up that will say subscribe to our newsletter. And once you fill that out, you won't see it again. So certainly I encourage you all. That will help you get information about all of our events and all the great happenings. We are also very active on LinkedIn. So follow our page on LinkedIn and just stay up to date with all the happenings. We will be having a lot of 25th anniversary events this year. And our events calendar on our website will have a list of all those things as they come up on the calendar. So I encourage everybody here listening to get involved and join us. And if you come to an event, please say hi to me and please say, I heard you and saw you on the 585. So by all means, just make that connection with me. That's how I like to know where people have heard about events before. So I encourage everybody here to just really, get informed, get on our newsletter and get subscribed. And those come out once a month. And then in addition to that, you'll get all the other notifications that we send out on a regular basis. And that will help you stay engaged and stay in touch with Tech Rochester.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we're gonna put all those notes in the show notes so they can get connected with you and check out Tech Rochester and attend to meetings and be involved and bring the arts world into it. Christine, let's do this. I mean, I really think there's so many advantages. So again, thank you for being on the show.
Yeah,
thank you for having me
so much.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of That Sounds Terrific in the 585. Check out our website, www.thatsoundsterrific.com, to see a full list of episodes and learn more about our hosts, Nick Koziel and Christine Green. Be sure to find us on your favorite social media platforms or podcast listening service by searching That Sounds Terrific, and feel free to give us a 5-star rating if you enjoy our show. Until next time.